I'm Gary, and this is Coastin' with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. As Stumblelandia came to its conclusion, several of us began the extended portion of our visit to various theme parks in Europe, with the first day and a half post-Stumble being rather chaotic. As Larson shared the itinerary with me, our original plan going from Poland was to catch a flight from Krakow to Hamburg and hitting the first German park that morning. But then he shared this idea about heading to Amsterdam so we could make a visit to Walibi Holland, which would give everyone doing this part of the trip the opportunity to ride all 3 European RMC coasters in one shot. Since I had not yet been to the Netherlands, and this was one of the parks on my planned itinerary from the year before I had to cancel, I was really happy to see this addition. So the new plan was to fly to Amsterdam, take a couple trains and a bus to Walibi, visit the park, take the bus and trains back, and sleep at an airport hotel to catch a morning flight out of Amsterdam to Hamburg. That being said, if you already knew about Amsterdam's airport troubles with their staffing shortage during the peak travel season, you may already know a little bit about where this is going. But there were multiple things that made this part of the trip a low point in the journey. Because of staying at Energylandia until closing the night before, we only got about 2 or 3 hours of sleep before we had to head to the airport in the morning. This is all f***ing Larson's fault.
It's so early.
It's only 4:30.
I try so hard, but got so far. In the end, sleep doesn't really matter.
Let's just say this wouldn't be the last of Tired Gary.
So zoomed in right now.
Yeah.
This is
Zoom in, baby.
Krakow Airport was also surprisingly busy that morning, which led to a few folks in our group just barely making the flight, as they got a bit of a later start.
Joey is literally the last one on the plane.
The good news though, we all made it. So we were good to continue on to Amsterdam. While most everyone tried to sleep through the flight, I took some time to appreciate the unique geography of the Dutch coast because of their land reclamation through the use of dikes, pumps, seawalls, and dunes. I wasn't the only one who really enjoyed the view from the flight. Larson was especially fond of them.
Was that not a magical flight? Hey!
As the rest of our crew trickled off of the plane, we were ready to head out and make our way to the park. Up to this point, I was just a bit tired from a lack of sleep, but then things started to get a bit jumbled up as we had several folks who hadn't booked their train tickets yet and instead booked a last-minute rental car, while others joined Mark in his car since he was from the Netherlands. Okay, that wasn't quite what we had been sold on doing, but it wasn't really a big deal at that point. Although a bit annoying that some of us who took the train would end up being an hour behind the rest of the crew, but at least those of us who took the train had a chance to enjoy the views along the way. It also gave me a chance to fix something that Allison and I had been talking about, which was the lack of Oblivious cam footage from the trip so far, so I made it my mission to get some. After 2 trains, we hopped on a bus that offered service to Walibi Holland, which had its share of unique views as well. As we arrived to the park, we would eventually get caught back up with the group and made our way toward Lost Gravity, Mach's first Big Dipper coaster. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell you about how the ride was, because I experienced the walk of shame since I couldn't get the lap bar down far enough. In spite of my rejection from riding, there was still a cool moment that came from this coaster.
This ride on Lost Gravity is going to be a very special occasion for this gentleman right here, Steven. Why is this a special occasion going on Lost Gravity?
It is going to be my 250th unique roller coaster ridden.
Hell yeah, we're going to get you 250 today, sir.
I'm so happy and so excited.
Yes!
I may not have been able to get it this time, but it was still great to see another coaster credit milestone achieved in the group. After that, we went over to their smaller coaster, Draco, which was a Zier Tivoli coaster. Not the biggest ride, but a solid one for the family. We also ran into Taylor and Sarah from Coaster Studios, and they filmed a few folks in our crew sharing their thoughts about the difference between Zadra and Iron Gwazi, which was really fitting since we were about to ride another European RMC. Untamed was the result of RMC's first rebuild in Europe, making it far more intense. For me, it might have been a bit too intense. To be fair, my bigger size may have played a part in this, but the way the lap bar would press into my stomach during quicker airtime hills and transitions made it a bit uncomfortable. I was expecting something akin to Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion, but came off it feeling like I had a few gut punches. I will say it does have some great elements, and perhaps with a little weight loss, I would have found it to be more fun, but I'm willing to accept my experience may not match others.
Hey guys, you're gonna get a headache on the SLC anyway, so just come on.
I'm here for the content. Hi, James.
So here we have the Condor, and here we have a Larson.
This wild bird is awful, and I'm not going to be riding it because I've previously ridden it with the old trains. And God have mercy on your soul.
Thank you for that blessing.
Can I get a no, yeah? Oh, yeah? Can I get a no? No! Oh, no!
Well, you can get a sense of what our crew thought about it by listening to us in real time. Yeah, let's just say the new train really didn't help.
I knew it was that, but
Not like this.
going back around for another ride. I'd rather step in dog shit in 120-degree weather and then roll around in it than ride that shit again.
It's a nice little back massage, it's fine.
Ah!
Somebody took a bite out of that pretzel.
Medic!
We then took a ride on Xpress, which is the same layout as the rock and roller coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios, but outdoors. This ride does lose a bit of its luster without the music and theming that Disney adds to it, which is what really made that ride for me. This version has a decent launch, but beyond that, it really isn't on the same level as other launch coasters with inversions out there. From that point, things continued to go a bit off the rails for the day as we went over to the boomerang coaster Sound of Speed, only to find that maintenance staff were actively working on it, so obviously it was closed. Now at this point, some folks began to head out a bit early, which I'll get back to in a minute. Some of us who stuck around went over to Goliath, their Intamed coaster that acts like several of their hypers, but just a bit shorter in height and length. Unfortunately, this too would be one I didn't experience for myself as I couldn't get the seatbelt to latch. So that would be walk of shame number 2 for the day. We did take a ride on their log flume, but because of my frustration with missing out on about half of the park's coasters and still feeling really worn out from the short night's sleep, I decided to make an early departure back to the airport to get to the hotel we booked for the night. I almost missed the stop where I needed to transfer trains because of dozing off, but I did manage to get back to the airport and stroll over to the Citizen M Hotel. This was certainly a unique place with one of the more fascinating room layouts I've ever seen, as there was what could best be described as a stripper shower with only a thin curtain to give some privacy if you were sharing the room. I thought I'd grab myself a beer before bed, but I wasn't the only one to do that. But let's back up to the night in Poland to explain this scenario. Sloan asked me about how we were getting to Hamburg from Amsterdam, and I mentioned the flight we were going to take the morning after Walibi. It turned out that he hadn't booked that flight, and when he looked at available seats, the price was upward of $500. When he looked into a rental car one way, it turned out to be nearly half the price, so I don't blame him for getting the rental car. Marcus, Mike, and Larson ended up joining him for the 3-hour drive to Hamburg, and they shared clips of his driving the Autobahn at a high speed. Then they shared pictures from dinner and having a few beers that night as they had themselves a jolly old time, since they didn't have to deal with the mess the rest of us would the following morning. As it had been well documented, Amsterdam's airport has struggled with staffing, thus leading to some incredibly long lines for security. And since we had a flight at 6:55 in the morning, I got up around 2:45 to try and give myself and Ricky enough time to grab a shower. Even more tired from what was now 2 short nights of sleep, I couldn't get that stupid stripper shower to turn on after trying for nearly 15 minutes because the doors had to be positioned in a very precise spot, and being just the width of a hair off would keep it from running. So that was a fun start to the day. But then we had the marathon wait for security to look forward to. And by this point, given what had been happening the past day or so, it was safe to say that I was getting a bit heated. There was a lot of frustration piling up between the lack of sleep, the sudden changing of plans for some while the rest of us were stuck on the original, and missing out on multiple coasters that I'd been looking forward to that all contributed to it. But what may have pushed me over the edge was the 4 who rode to Hamburg. Not so much with Sloan, because of his situation of not having the flight booked and needing to get there somehow. And frankly, if I were in Marcus or Mike's spot, I might have done the same thing as they did. Most of my frustration was with this guy. The guy who put this itinerary together and said, let's take the train and the bus, and then said, let's go ahead and fly from Amsterdam to Hamburg. Yeah, I was a real fucking sourpuss that day, but it felt like some grade A bullshit that the guy who put this damn itinerary together didn't even fucking do it himself. And by the time we got through security, we only had about 20 minutes left to get on that damn bus that was going to take us to the plane to get out of there. And on top of that, seeing the pictures and videos of their joyride and hanging out at the bar after, I was half expecting them to give us a hard time about the shit we were going through, and was preparing to fucking unload on them if they gave us a hard time. Luckily though, we made the flight and it went off without a hitch. As we arrived, I started to calm down with the realization that we were done with flights for the next several days, and it really helped when the guys arrived to meet up with us there and shared that they felt guilty about how things had unfolded. So I really appreciated it not being rubbed in our faces as angry me thought it would. And given that it was a new day, it felt like it was a good time to just let it go. What really got me back into a good mood though was the idea of driving a van with 8 people in it as fast as possible on the Autobahn, which ended up being about 190 kilometers an hour. Yeah, I was back to my happy old self. Although I did hit a bird. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.